I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a Senate Banking Committee hearing on Thursday, Senator Raphael Warnock spoke about the rental market and housing. The Georgia Democrat asked witnesses about immediate solutions to help renters. Warnock said, quote, Georgia is in the middle of a housing crisis and slammed institutional buyers for the increases in home and rental prices. Take a listen here for more.
Thank you so very much, Chairman Brown. Since 2019, rent in Georgia has increased 13.7%, one of the highest increases in the country and far exceeding income growth over the same period. Meanwhile, for the first time since it began tracking data, the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta has deemed the Atlanta housing market as unaffordable, forcing more and more prospective homeowners, as you point out, to keep paying rent. And let's be clear, this is not just a city of Atlanta problem. Everywhere in Georgia, people are feeling the pinch. Dawson County, which has a population of around 25,000, has a lower home ownership affordability index than Fulton County. The best way we can lower prices is to increase supply, and I've supported several bills that do just that, but Georgians don't have the luxury to wait several years for home prices and rents to fall. Ms. Bailey, what are some immediate solutions we can offer renters, especially those who spend a significant proportion of their income on rent, to help them provide the relief they so desperately need?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. The most immediate thing that we can do to help renters is to provide rental assistance, mainly through the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That can immediately give renters the relief that they need to be able to afford the other things that Senator Brown mentioned in his opening statement: food, transportation, clothing, school supplies. That giving someone a housing voucher will allow them to only pay about 30% of their income toward their rent, so that it frees up more income for other needs.
Do you think that offering tax cuts to rent-burdened individuals might be helpful?
Tax credits can be helpful to renters. Being able to give renters more cash to just be able to pay their basic bills can be more helpful.
Okay. And, when we passed the American Rescue Plan, one of the provisions in that bill was the single largest tax cut for middle and working class families in American history. I regret the fact that we weren't able to get it extended. But do you think that kind of tax cut could have been helpful?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, those provisions in the American Rescue Plan helped significantly reduce poverty for children. And so extending those, doing more of those, can only help low and middle income families.
Georgia's in the middle of a housing crisis, as we point out, and understanding how large institutional investors and Wall Street private equity firms from outside Georgia affect the market is also an important part of this puzzle, it seems to me. According to the National Association of Realtors, institutional buyers made up 13% of the residential sales in 2021. However, institutional landlords do not look to acquire properties uniformly across the country. In Georgia, institutional buyers made up 19% of all sales, 19%. The second highest in the nation, and according to a survey by CoreLogic, mostly out-of-state investors made almost 43% of all purchases in the Atlanta area in late 2021. Dr. Yoon, what effects are targeted private equity investments having on the housing market in cities like Atlanta and the surrounding areas?
Certainly, we hear that from our members in Georgia Realtors, that institutional buyers are coming in and essentially pushing away first-time buyers, especially those requiring first-generation buyers, such as taking out an FHA mortgage or VA mortgages. They have very little chance. And furthermore, it changes the dynamics of the neighborhood, where you have a distant landlord overseeing rather than having homeowners who are deeply rooted into a community.
What data do we need to fully understand how institutional investors are influencing our housing markets?
So the data collection is very important. So the 13% institutional buyers you refer to certainly are people who are buying that may be upgrading it in order to sell, but there's also people who are permanent corporate landlords. And I think that's where the concerns are expressed among our members, where it's just essentially leading into more renter nation rather than giving opportunity to buy a home for people who are of more moderate income.
Right. I think that we need research to effectively understand how private equity is impacting markets in Atlanta and Georgia, all across the country, and I look forward to introducing legislation very soon to address that very issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chairman, for letting the most junior member of the Senate go